The third quarter goes out like a lamb on Wall Street, with stocks barely budging in trading today as investors play their cards close to the vest. We look ahead to what the fourth quarter on Wall Street could bring.
And we look back with Sam Stovall of Standard & Poor's. He'll run down the winners and losers of the third quarter when it came to stocks.
You're not the only one making fewer trips these days to save on gas. American Airlines is canceling some flights to save money on jet fuel, and it may not be the only carrier doing that.
And no close shaves for Gillette. U.S. regulators give the green light to its buyout by Procter & Gamble. But the final deal will have some strings attached.
I'm Paul Kangas.
And I'm Susie Garob. This is Nightly Business Report for Friday, September 30th.
Nightly Business Report is made possible by...
Don't let your nest egg get away from you. Objective financial advice can help. A.G. Edwards, for 118 years, fully invested in our clients.
Franklin Templeton Investments, providing a unique perspective through the specialized investment expertise of Franklin Templeton Mutual Series and Fiduciary Trust. Franklin Templeton Investments, gain from our perspective. This program was made possible by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Stocks wrapped up the third quarter on an up note. The Dow gained almost 16 points. The Nasdaq rose 10. In fact, all the major averages posted gains for the quarter, even though stocks have traded sideways since July's big rally. Scott Gervey takes a look at how the fourth quarter is shaping up.
The market closed the quarter with a whimper as investors moved to the sidelines to plot their moves for the fourth quarter. Looking ahead, analysts note that higher energy prices are having a negative impact on consumer confidence. They say that means less spending, lower corporate profits, and more rough sledding for the equity markets. The Dow has, in fact, barely budged since the first of the year, while the more broadly based S&P 500 gained about 3.7%. A poor holiday spending season is the market watcher's biggest fear, as it is usually the best-selling season for most sectors in the economy.
We think that when heating bills hit the consumer for this fourth quarter, you could have 40–50% increases in heating bills over the last year. That's going to have a tendency to reduce consumer behavior. That might make this fourth quarter a little bit soft in terms of equity performance. We see, potentially a 1%, 2%, 3% gain this quarter, not much more than that.
One of the biggest problems in forecasting the fourth quarter is the problem in getting a good assessment of the damage from Hurricanes Katrina and Rita. Much of the nation's refineries and gas generating capacity remains offline. But while investors have their eyes on energy prices, the experts say that monetary policy may be the biggest unknown in the fourth quarter. The Federal Reserve has yet to give some indication of just how high it will push interest rates.
What we can't predict with perfect vision is exactly how quickly we'll get up to high levels of production, what the winter will be like. These things are uncertain. But what the long-term effect for the market is, I think, is more driven by the Fed's stance on how they proceed in their monetary policy and interest rate targets, and that may not fully unwind before the year's done.
The earnings pre-announcement season begins in earnest next week as companies warn Wall Street about problems they see coming in their third quarter reports. Scott Gervey, Nightly Business Report, New York.
Hurricane Katrina put a damper on consumer income and spending last month. The Commerce Department says personal income fell 0.1% in August due to uninsured property losses along the Gulf Coast. Personal spending dropped a sharp 0.5% to its lowest level in 4 years as Americans refrain from buying new cars because of high gasoline prices. Some economists expect consumer spending to continue to dip in the months ahead.
I have my concerns about the consumer, but this number does not reflect that. My concerns for the consumer going forward are based upon rising energy costs, and that's going to be a concern all throughout the winter because households are going to have to pay a lot more to heat their homes, and that's going to be a drain on the consumer.
Those concerns about the consumer sent blue chip stocks modestly lower this morning, but the tech-laden Nasdaq went the other way thanks to better than expected results from Micron Technology. At noon, the Dow was down 23 points, but the Nasdaq was up 3 points. And easing in oil prices and some last-minute end-of-quarter window dressing purchases by institutions helped stocks improve this afternoon and end the day modestly higher. The Dow Jones Industrial Average gained 15.92 points, ending at 10,568.70 today. It rose in every day this week. It had a net gain of 149.11 points. The NASDAQ Composite was up 10.47 today, ending at 2151.69. It fell twice and rose 3 times this week, had an overall gain of 34.85 points. The Standard & Poor's 500 index edged up 1.13 points to 1228.81 today. In the bond market, the 10-year note fell 7/30 seconds to 99 and 12/30 seconds, putting the yield at 4.33%.
If you're booking travel on Continental or Delta Airlines, expect to pay more to fly. Today, the carriers raised fares within the U.S. and between the U.S. and Canada by $20 for each round trip. They say they need the money to help offset soaring jet fuel prices. Continental is also reviewing its schedule and says it might suspend some flights in some markets. Well, that's already the case for American Airlines, which today grounded some flights. The carrier said it's temporarily canceling 15 daily round-trip domestic flights because of fuel costs. The domestic cutbacks will begin on Wednesday and run for at least 3 weeks, possibly longer. In addition, American is discontinuing all of its service from Chicago to Nagoya, Japan, at the end of the month. Due in part to Hurricanes Katrina and Rita, American says jet fuel prices are now almost double what they were a year ago.
The airlines aren't alone in coping with rising energy costs. As I mentioned earlier, high fuel prices are already slamming the brakes on consumer spending. And with winter already beginning to chill some parts of the country, it won't be long before home heating bills enter into the equation. Darren Gersh reports.
In Washington, D.C., low-income consumers, already hit hard by rising energy prices, are signing up for help with natural gas bills expected to soar even higher when the temperature falls.
Gas is outrageous.
And it's going to get worse. The Federal Energy Information Administration is predicting natural gas and propane prices will add $500 to the average consumer's winter heating bill. But that estimate will be revised up in 2 weeks to take into account the devastation from Hurricane Rita.
Clearly, this is going to increase the price of that consumers pay this winter. It adds a further blow to an already very tight market situation.
The ultimate price for natural gas this winter really comes down to a race between the weather and efforts to restore production in the Gulf of Mexico. The Energy Department reported today 15% of the nation's natural gas production remains offline, and some plants may not be up and running until next year. That is why analysts expect prices to remain volatile.
This isn't going to hit most residential consumers until late December or January, till you get that first full seasonal bill, and then it just comes all at once.
Analysts expect consumers will adjust, putting on sweaters and turning down the thermostat. But that may not be enough to support consumer spending, especially since the Federal Reserve is still pushing interest rates higher.
So the combination of higher mortgage payments, higher gasoline prices, higher natural gas prices, and then higher food prices as a result of transportation costs going up, I think has a major effect on the consumer.
To soften that blow, 28 state governors have asked the president to increase low-income home heating oil assistance by more than $1 billion. And on Monday, the Bush administration will officially launch a campaign to help consumers conserve energy. Darren Gersh, Nightly Business Report, Washington.
Boeing is building airplanes again tonight. The company's machinists have returned to work, ending a month-long strike by approving a new contract. Under the deal, the union's workers get higher pension benefits but won't have to pay higher health care premiums. Because of the walkout, Boeing missed deliveries of more than 24 planes this month, but analysts think it can make up for the lost production fairly quickly. world's biggest retailer is shaking things up in the executive suite. Walmart said today that the heads of its U.S. and international operations are swapping jobs. The company hopes the moves will goose sales growth, which has been sluggish both here at home and abroad. Last month, Walmart reported its smallest quarterly profit gain in 4 years as higher oil prices kept customers out of its stores and drove up its own costs. Its U.S. division fell short of its sales goals for the second straight quarter. Meanwhile, Paul, Walmart is expanding in Japan. It's raising its stake in Japanese retailer Seiyu to more than 50%.
Well, investors raised Walmart's stock price today, Susie, as it closed up 28 cents at $43.82 a share. Now let's look at the rest of our stocks in the news tonight. The New York Exchange volume leader on 25.4 million shares, Micron Technology, moving up $1.11. As I touched on earlier, fourth quarter earnings much better than expected, 7 cents a share in earnings versus a loss of 14 cents a share last year. Sales during the period up 20% over a year ago. CS First Boston and Thomas Weissel brokerages both boosted earnings estimates. Lucent in there with a 3-cent gain. Delphi gaining 24 cents. Of course, the company is flirting between bankruptcy or a bailout by General Motors. Then Procter & Gamble moving up $1.32. The Federal Trade Commission has approved the company's buyout of Gillette, provided that Procter divests itself of certain operations like Rembrandt toothpaste, Right Guard, and Dry Idea deodorants, and some other smaller units. General Electric, fifth in volume, was up 2 cents a share. Then came Nokia with a 45-cent gain. Pfizer fell 12 cents. Sprint Nextel was up 18 cents, even though Soleil Securities downgraded it from buy to just a hold. Motorola was down 12 cents, and Taiwan Semiconductor, 10th in big board volume, a 17-cent gain. Aetna moved up $1.44. The company's board of directors has authorized the stock buyback of up to $750 million. First Marblehead gained $2.55. Now, the chairman resigned on Wednesday, and the stock fell sharply, somewhere around $5. But now the company is going to buy back up to 5 million of their own shares. Best Buy moving up 41 cents. The company is testing the purchase and sale of used video game software at some of its stores. Daimler Chrysler down 96 cents. The company squelched all talk and rumors that it may acquire a stake in Volkswagen. Whirlpool was up $1.15. The company reaffirmed that it expects earnings of between $5.90 and $6 a share this year. Also, it said that its combination with Maytag will save $300 to $400 million by the third year. NBTY Incorporated up $3.27. The Adams Harkness brokerage upgraded the stock from market perform to a buy. National Semiconductor, 77-cent gain. The company is boosting its quarterly dividend from 2 cents to 3 cents. Google topped the active list on NASDAQ with a gain of $6.84. It was up on speculation the stock will be added to the Standard & Poor's 500 index, replacing Gillette. But late today, Standard & Poor's announced Lennar, the home builder stock, will replace Gillette. And after hours trading, Google was down around $312.50, while Lennar gained $1.59 from its regular way close. Microsoft, a 21-cent drop. Apple Computer moved up $1.27. Cisco, a 6-cent gain. Intel up 17 cents. That was fifth in dollar volume. Research in Motion down $1.70, while Amgen dropped 10 cents. SanDisk, a good gain of $3.17. The company and Sony are developing a new cell phone storage device. Oracle was up 8 cents, and then 10th in volume, Qualcomm losing 24 cents. CTI Industries up $1.66. That's a 47% gain. The company got a patent on its film texture process. And a new issue today, Vistaprint Limited. This was a 10 million share offering priced at $12, opened at $12.27. The high of the day, $15.71, and it closed pretty close to the high. SafeNet Incorporated jumping $6.61 or 22%. The company received a $150 million contract to upgrade the U.S. government's encryption defenses. And those are the stocks in the news tonight. Susie?
Paul, the close of business today marks the end of an era at the Walt Disney Company. Today is CEO Michael Eisner's last day on the job after 21 years with the company. He hands over control of the media giant to incoming CEO Bob Iger. Eisner spearheaded the company's expansion, buying Capital Cities ABC back in 1995 and opening new theme parks outside Paris and Hong Kong. But his tenure was not without controversy, including some missteps that caused a minor shareholder revolt. When Eisner joined Disney, the firm had just $1.5 billion in revenues each year, and the stock was trading at $1.33. Now Disney racks up nearly $31 billion each year in revenues. The stock closed today at $24.13, up 17 cents.
Monday, they're the people who gas up all those planes, trucks, and boats. We talked with the head of World Fuel Services.
Here's a look now at what's happening next week. Our Friday Market Monitor guest is Robert Morrow, editor of Institutional Advisory Service. On the economic calendar, Monday, it's September vehicle sales and August construction spending. Tuesday, August factory orders. Wednesday, the government releases weekly crude oil and gasoline inventory levels. Thursday, September chain store sales, and then on Friday, an important report, it's the September employment report.
With me now to review how the major stock market averages fared in the third quarter and what stocks were the big gainers and losers is Sam Stovall, the chief market strategist at Standard & Poor's. And welcome back to Nightly Business Report. Sam, great to see you.
Happy to be here, Paul.
As we look at the major averages, do you find it surprising that they managed to post any gains at all in light of the ravages delivered by Hurricanes Katrina and Rita and, of course, the surge in oil prices?
Also, when you look back at history, typically in the third quarter, the S&P 500 falls more than 2%. It's the worst of all 4 quarters, but we certainly eked out a winner this time.
Well, let's get down to the individual issues. Now, we see Hewlett-Packard as the best performing stock in the Dow 30 for the third quarter, up 24.2%. What was behind that?
Well, I think the street thinks it's going to post good earnings, and also it's sort of a vote of approval for the new CEO.
And Caterpillar did well, up 23%. What's behind that one?
Well, the company will likely be a beneficiary of the new highway spending bill.
Okay, and McDonald's must be loving it with that gain of 20.7%.
Exactly. Well, I think basically management has succeeded with its new menu alterations, and also there's a potential that pushing through some of the real estate privatizations could benefit the share prices.
Okay, the worst performers in the Dow, led by Merck, down 11.7%.
Well, I think mounting Vioxx-related litigation is what's pushing the shares lower.
And then General Motors slipped in there with a 10% drop. Of course, they're having their problems with legacy expenses and so forth.
Absolutely. Lower production volumes and also higher material costs.
And yet another major drug, Pfizer, doing poorly, down 9.5%.
Well, the mother of all drugs coming off patent, Lipitor, will happen in 2010, and the FDA has been rejecting a lot of its recent compounds.
All right, let's take a look at the Standard & Poor's 500 third quarter winners, led by Visteon.
Visteon, auto parts manufacturer, basically Ford is looking to bail them out by taking over about 23 of their facilities.
And King Pharmaceuticals, ironically, one of the best percentage gainers in this case.
That's right. Well, basically because the potential merger with Mylan Labs is coming undone, S&P has taken it off of its credit watch with negative implications.
Okay, and the Third quarter losers in the Standard & Poor's 500, led by Delphi, another auto parts maker.
That's right. Four of these companies are on this list. Delphi, basically a company that is likely to go out of business, or at least has the potential, and that's making investors nervous.
And Dana's.
Another situation like GM, where it's low production volume and high material costs.
Okay, let's have a look over on NASDAQ, and the best performer, SanDisk, up over double.
Oh, it's skyrocketed. Well, basically the feeling is that there's surging demand for flash memory chips for cellular phones.
And what does Garmin Limited do? Up 58.7%. That's a move.
Exactly. Well, this is a company that is likely to benefit from the increased demand for GPS navigational systems.
Oh, that's the thing these days. On the downside in NASDAQ 100, the poorest performer, PetSmart. And I know what you're going to say about this one.
That's right. It went to the dogs this quarter, and basically it's because of weak third quarter guidance and also slowing comps.
And then VeriSign losing 25.7% of its value.
Well, here's a reversal of the SanDisk situation, where this company is likely to see weakening mobile content business.
Okay, that completes the stock information. And Sam, any thoughts on what investors should expect in the fourth quarter? We have a little over a minute.
Well, I think that we could actually see history repeat itself, in which the fourth quarter is by far the best quarter of the year on average since 1990, gaining 6.8%. The feeling being that maybe investors overreacted to the negative consumer sentiment reports. We could see third quarter earnings be stronger than expected, and we might even see oil prices moderate a bit. And let's face it, the Fed will soon end its rate tightening policy, and investors are likely to anticipate that.
What stock groups look the most attractive to you at this stage?
Well, right now, our feeling is that consumer discretionary and technology will be sector leaders this quarter.
Okay, and the ones to stay away from?
Well, I think telecom is going to continue to see pressure, primarily from voice over internet protocol, as well as the cable broadcasters.
Okay, any final thoughts? We have about 20 seconds left, Sam.
Well, I would tend to say, Paul, that one of the concerns really is what's likely to happen not only this year but next year as well. And if you look at typically what happens in the fourth year of a bull market, the anniversary is on October 10th of this year, typically what we find is that the S&P 500 catches a second wind.
All right, very interesting, and thank you so much, Sam, for providing all the information, and we'll look forward to your doing it again.
Thanks a lot, Paul.
My guest, Sam Stovall, Chief Market Strategist at Standard & Poor's.
And recapping today's market action, a quiet end to the month and the quarter on Wall Street. The Dow gained almost 16 points. The NASDAQ closed up 10. To learn more about the stories in tonight's broadcast, go to NBR.com. Tonight's commentator says it's important to help the people hurt by the hurricanes along the Gulf Coast, but he says it's also important to find financially responsible ways to pay for it. Here's Charles Schultz, Senior Fellow at the Brookings Institution.
To help the people of the Gulf Coast rebuild their lives and communities, President Bush has outlined what he called one of the largest reconstruction efforts the world has ever seen. The compassion of our nation indeed demands such a response. But apart from a perfunctory call for cutting unnecessary spending, the President proposes no way to marshal 100 or more billions of dollars that will be spent, except by borrowing. This has become standard practice. We've had a series of large deficit finance tax cuts, which, when made permanent, as the President has asked, will add some $4 trillion to the national debt 10 years from now. A Medicare drug program was inaugurated with no new source of financing at a 10-year cost of $400 to $500 billion. In Iraq and Afghanistan, we're spending more than $80 billion a year and have added that to our borrowing as well. The President and the Congress have become addicted to launching costly national commitments without even thinking about how to pay for them. But our children and grandchildren will pay. Their taxes will pick up the bill when the IOUs come due. And since today's federal borrowing soaks up funds that could have financed private investment and higher GDP, their incomes will be lower than they otherwise would. It's a sorry spectacle. I'm Charles Schultz.
And that's Nightly Business Report for Friday, September 30th. I'm Susie Garrett. Have a great weekend, everyone, and to you too, Paul.
And you as well, Susie. I'm Paul Kangas, wishing all of you the best of goodbyes.
Nightly Business Report is made possible by Franklin Templeton Investments, providing a unique perspective through the specialized investment expertise of Franklin Templeton Mutual Series and Fiduciary Trust. Franklin Templeton Investments, gain from our perspective.
Don't let your nest egg get away from you. Objective financial advice can help. A.G. Edwards, for 118 years, fully invested in our clients.
This program was made possible by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you. For more information about investing, you may order the NBR Video Library of Personal Finance by calling 1-800-535-5864. This program is available in either the VHS or DVD formats.
We are PBS.
Funding for local broadcast of Nightly Business Report has been provided by viewers like you and by the following.
Call